With that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker of the night, Irene Solaiman. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. This evening, I will be talking about identity, and I will also be sharing my first experience with sexual assault. When you have to list the defining characteristics of your identity, what do you think they are? They're the physical characteristics, which are usually recognizable at a glance. I'm female, I'm brown, I'm in my early 20s. And then there are the unseen parts of our identity. This can be a life-changing experience. I have been sexually assaulted on multiple occasions. I've not chosen any of these characteristics about myself, but they are inherent to my perception of myself and my identity. This evening, I will be answering two questions. First, in a world rife with labels, how can your labels shape you, not define you? Second, how am I, a 21-year-old undergraduate student who still eats dessert for dinner, qualified to talk about identity? Identity is an enigmatic concept. So much so that it has inspired a myriad of theories like social identity theory, identity development theory. But from any perspective, it is constantly evolving. That means that a 21-year-old undergraduate student can be as secure in her identity as a 65-year-old retiree. Another commonality among identity theories is that there are experiential and environmental factors. One of the most influential factors in my identity was my first experience with sexual assault. When I was 11 years old, my family took me to my heritage country, Bangladesh, and we took an excursion to the beach. While I was swimming in the ocean, fully clothed, a group of men simultaneously groped me while attempting to drown me. When I fought to emerge, I found them in discordant laughter. It was the kind of memorable family vacation that we were hoping for. The Department of Justice defines sexual assault as any kind of sexual contact or behavior that occurs without the explicit consent of the recipient. This includes child molestation and rape. It's unfortunately a particularly relevant topic because 1 in 5 women and 1 in 16 men are sexually assaulted while they're in college. Traumatic experiences can happen to anyone, and showing symptoms is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it's normal. A Stanford University study analyzed these common effects and symptoms. This can include re-experiencing the event, feeling signs of physical agitation or anxiety. Some take the avoidance route, which can lead to shutting down emotionally or feeling numb. This can also have an effect on your relationships and your self-perception. I, since I have an affinity for running away from my problems, took the avoidance route. I didn't speak about it for 5 years, and then I couldn't speak about it without crying for another year. I actively avoided beaches and pools. Those that knew me noticed a change. I was quieter. Sometimes I was called paranoid. It had taken over my life. For those who have experienced a traumatic event, there is an unfair burden to heal from an experience that we did not choose. In fact, it's something that we would have preferred never happened at all. But I took 3 steps in recovering. First was acknowledging the issue and finding support. The first person I told was my mother. I then promptly learned that every woman in my family has experienced sexual assault, like it's some sort of rite of passage to womanhood. But to me, they were my models. They were my support, and they showed me that it is possible to overcome. The next step was seeking resources. I joined the UMB Help Center, which is a peer counseling and crisis intervention hotline that advocates mental health wellness. And it was there that I first found peers whose first sexual experience was assault. They taught me how to stop cringing when I was touched. They taught me that it is not my fault. Although power was taken away from me in those few instances, I have the power over the rest of my life. The third step, and this one is never complete, is to put your knowledge to practice. This could be as simple as forming new relationships. It could be building trust within those relationships. Confronting your reminders, getting back in the pool, one toe at a time. I started to counsel victims of sexual assault. Whether I was working with a young white male or an elderly Asian female, my interactions constantly inspired me. They exposed me to new stories. They increased my own self-confidence. Recognize what has come of a traumatic event. I am more resilient. Recognize that this is part of your life. It can never be forgotten, nor should it be. But it is not who you are. My identity is not one of a sexual assault victim or survivor. That experience shaped my communication skills. It inspired my work as a counselor, and it inspires my work in human rights. Everyone addresses their own experiences differently, but regardless of your situation, know that you are not alone. Know that it is not your fault, and know that it does get better. You are not what happens to you. You are what you choose to be. You define you. Thank you.